This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 635 of the Dressage Radio Show, official podcast of the United States Dressage Federation on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products and Total Saddle Fit. On tonight's show, we are going to meet Erin Paul, who tells us all about her rescue horse who just competed at Grand Prix. Then we are going to have a great conversation with friend of the show, Lauren Sprieser. And after that, our trainer tip is brought to you by horse show photographer Lisa Dean.
This is Reese Koppler-Stanfield from Georgetown, Kentucky.
And this is Philip Parks from Rockwood, Ontario, flubbing the intro again and again and again. And you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show.
Hi, Phil.
I'm so glad we have such a great editor to be able to help us with our show every week, because it's not easy.
Well, I don't think everyone's heard you flub the intro 85 times, but you had me laughing. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, but then when you laugh, and then it just screws me up even more, and then it causes it to take longer and more edit.
It's true. You know, shout out to Paul, who is our editor. You guys don't normally hear Paul or talk to Paul, but he makes us sound great because we do flub a lot. It's amazing.
Oh well, all right. Well, let's get going here. What have you been up to this week, Reese?
Oh gosh, it has just been a busy week. I'm not gonna lie. We haven't really stopped. We had a great horse show over the weekend. Big Mike stepped into the A game spot. We had our kind of regional not regionals, like Kentucky championships. So Big Mike was great. He did 2 really good tests. And so he defended his title from last year. So that was really fun. And I always enjoy, I think this show today is going to be a little bit about perspective. And I do tell people a lot that it really is an honor and a privilege to be able to horse show. And I think sometimes when you're really in the moment or in the goal or you're trying really hard, you forget that. And I was reminded of that this week. I had a horse. I've really been encouraging this young lady. She's a great rider and friend to really work toward her 3rd level bronze medal score. She had a horse who passed away, and I really pushed her to go to the horse show. And she did get one of her scores. And then the horse actually had an accident. We think he's going to be okay. But she came back to me and she said, Reese, I'm so glad you pushed me to do this, because it is true. When you have a horse and you have goals, it is important to move forward and work toward those goals. And remember, it is supposed to be fun and all those things. So she will get her last score, but she was cute. She said, I see why you kind of have pushed me toward this. And it's true. So we had a great show. We've got a couple lighter weeks, and then we have our regional championships in October, but you also had a horse show.
Yeah. I know we've been talking all season, and so my last show I had a really a little bit beyond expectations horse show, and then this one I took one horse because this is a horse that really needs to get out and keep competing and getting miles. And my last show in 4-1, really whatever happened, the stars aligned for the day, and he got over 70%, like 71 or 72 or close to 72. And this time I kind of went in we're going to get 75 now. I kind of rode it in that way. And It just ended up in a little bit disaster. So, I just needed to relax. It was just, in my extended canners, I just, really went for it. And then when I gave that half halt with the outside rein, he flipped his lead, and then I had to turn down the center line, and that didn't work. And so I ended up having to circle, and then his walk was not clear, relaxed. I just put too much tension into the horse, and that was my mistake, not really his, but wasn't great.
That's okay.
It's learning. That's why we're getting more miles, so we can get on the same page, and I won't goose him again and go for for more than what's expected, right? And well, what I think is that you can't ride for more than what you do every day. But I kind of did that and was a problem and learned from it. And then the next 2 days, I probably rode him a little bit too quiet. So he was, he didn't have that extra spark and whatever, but we had 2 clean tests and that's how it goes. That's horse showing,
right.
Every 10 years, everything aligns and you get it right. And you got to celebrate at that moment.
Celebrate.
It's not going to happen again for another 10 years or something.
Probably
like that.
not.
But
no.
It's okay. I had fun. And
that's so good. I agree. I think, it was very rarely do you and I sort of get to go down the center line for fun in a way, but this horse show was very kind of our prep for regionals. And it was nice that Big Mike, but we had a conversation going on, and it was a positive conversation in the test. It was like, come on, a little bit more here, a little bit more of this. And I think that was good for us this time. And there wasn't much pressure, which was great. It was fun to win the local championship, but I really wanted to get in there and just kind of school him. And we hadn't done the Pre-St. George since Florida. So that was good just to kind of get in there and ride that and know where I need to push and where I can't push and where I should push and all those things. So it was good. But like you said, showing it's a totally different ball game, and really you got to do it. There's nothing better than just doing it. So good for you. I think that was your last one of the season, right?
I'm really looking forward to getting some training done. So, kind of while you're in season, you've got to really just be polishing and working on testing. You're not really getting any training done. So, coming into this in the last couple of weeks, I'm like, I really want to get in there and make this better or, his collection better or whatever, but I can't. Because it might mess something up, and that's not what I wanted to do before the end of the season. So now I'm like just thinking, okay, now we can get in there and we can just start from scratch again and just make everything better so that we can hopefully get to the next level next season. So that means Pre-St. George. That's some serious stuff. And, you can't just, it's like we talk about later with Lauren, it's not always progressive. And sometimes you gotta break it down and build it up again. So that's what I'm looking forward to doing over the winter.
Right. I love it. But we do have a great show for everybody today. We want to get kind of look toward our regional championships and getting everybody motivated. So we're going to have a quick commercial break from Kentucky Performance Products, and then we'll get into the show.
This Nutrition Minute is brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products, the company that simplifies your search for research-proven nutritional supplements at kppusa.com.
The horse that matters to you matters to Kentucky Performance Products. Managing horses can be challenging. Each horse's personality affects the way he behaves and reacts to the world around him. Horses with certain dispositions can be at higher risk for developing health problems than others. High-strung or excitable horses are easily stressed, but so is the timid, quiet warrior. Stressed horses are more likely to develop digestive upsets that lead to colic, diarrhea, and ulcers. Nalox Advanced was specifically developed to support a digestive tract that is under stress. It sustains proper pH levels, reducing the incidence of ulcers and hindgut imbalances, while simultaneously supporting the healing of damaged tissues. Nalox Advanced supports the complete digestion of starches and sugars and sustains populations of beneficial bacteria. Make life a little easier on your sensitive horse and start him on Nalox Advanced today. To learn more about the ingredients in Nalox Advanced, visit Kentucky Performance Products at kppusa.com.
Well, tonight we are so excited to have Erin Paul. She's a professional rider in Ocala, Florida, and she's going to tell us her story about her wonderful horse, Kelso. So, Erin, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to get to brag about my little wonder pony.
Well, tell us about your wonder pony, because he's worth bragging about.
Yes, he's the coolest. So I adopted Kelso. I rescued Kelso 12 years ago, and I call Kelso the Wonder Pony because he's wonderful, and we don't know what he is, so hence we wonder what he is. And I rescued Kelso, I rescued Kelso 12 years ago from a foster situation, but he had been in the Minnesota Hooved Animal Rescue for a few years until I found him. And I finally convinced my parents to let me get a horse after asking, I think, for about 13 Christmases. I was 13 years old, turning 14, I found Kelso. And I looked at a few different horses, and the woman that I was riding with at the time told me she fostered a few horses from the rescue and told me about Kelso. And she said, if you don't get him, I think I will. So I went to go look at him, and I vividly remember he was in a back pasture, and I was riding in a little Wintec saddle. We had knotted together a big warm blood bridle because that's the only equipment that they had for him. And I could not steer. And I fell in love with him. And since then, we've grown up together. And we are best friends. He's everything good in the world. And I think I'm the luckiest person to have him. And so we ran around for the first 7 years that we were together. And we did everything under the sun. We chased cows around, we jumped, we did Liberty, and we went through the entire Pirelli Natural Horsemanship program. And I looked at him one day and I said, hey, what do you think about going to a dressage show? And that was 6 years ago. So we signed up for a dressage show, and fast forward, and 3 weeks ago, we made our Grand Prix debut, which I still don't believe when I say that because it's so overwhelming to be able to do it with my little rescue pony who I remember when I started the whole dressage thing, a trainer asked me, she was like, what are your goals with him? And I was like, oh, I really want to get my bronze medal on him. And I thought, how cool would that be to be able to learn how to do lead changes and do them in a show and then get my bronze. And so to be knocking on the door of getting my gold medal with him is pretty cool.
So I just need to ask you, first of all, tell us how old you think he is and how big he is, but if you couldn't steer, what was it about him that you fell in love with on that day?
That's a great question. I've been thinking about that recently because I almost don't remember what it was, which makes me think like this was just meant to be because of all the things that have happened and all of the opportunities that he's opened for me or made possible for me. But he is 14'2". He is 2 centimeters too tall to be considered a pony. So I kept joking that that's okay because that keeps us in the running to do the Olympics. Because at one point, I think it's still the rule that ponies can't compete at the Olympics. I'm not sure why, but the good news is Kelso and I could go to the Olympics. And he is, I always say he's an Arab cross, which is kind of a cop-out because what breed doesn't have Arabian in it? But one of my friends keeps trying to convince me to do a DNA test on him. And I'm like, I don't know. It's kind of fun to not know what he is and it doesn't change anything. So I don't know. One day she might convince me. But half of the fun too is every person who meets him gets to guess what they think he is. And I've noticed that people tend to guess whatever their favorite breed is or whatever horse that they might have grown up with that reminds them of that horse. Like I have people who are like, oh, I had a super cool Connemara pony growing up. He looks like he's a Connemara. So that's kind of fun. But yeah, I'm not sure what made me fall in love with him. I remember he has such a good sense of humor and he's super playful and fun. And I remember that when I met him. And I think that's something that I identified with because that's something that I love. I love having fun and keeping it playful. But obviously, it's worked out for whatever reason. Whatever reason I fell in love, it's been a good run.
I love it. So moving forward, what's the next goal? To finish the gold, and then what?
Finish the gold. I admittedly have not done a musical freestyle on him yet, partially because we've just been kind of working so hard just to get to Grand Prix. So I'd love to do a musical freestyle with him. I keep joking that our retirement plan is going to be working equitation because that looks like something we could have fun with. But right now, like I said, my original goal with him was to get my bronze. And I cried really hard when I got my silver because it meant so much. And what he's given me has been beyond my wildest dreams. He's made dreams come true I didn't know were possible. And so once that happened, I said, now now I would like to preserve him, his mental, emotional, and physical health, and continue to train correctly and fairly and kindly, keeping him in mind. I mean, he's an older horse, so I was always really cognizant of that and saying, I always told him, if this is too much, tell me. But he's always put his little head down and been like, nope, we're doing this. And so my goal shifted to going down 1 Grand Prix center line. And now I've done 2. So he's exceeded that goal per Kelso style. So now I'm finally brave enough to say I want to get my gold on him, which is, that's just been in the last few weeks. I'm like, okay, I can say it out loud now. I'm not going to jinx myself.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, Erin, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey with Kelso. How can our listeners find you online if they want to ask you more questions or see him in person, etc.?
People can find me on Facebook under my name, Erin Paul. They can also find me under my business name, Wonderland Dressage. They can shoot me an email, also wonderlanddressage@gmail.com. And I also have an old blog called pinkstirrupsblog.com.
I love it. Well, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on.
Keeping our horses happy and healthy is paramount to horse owners everywhere. Since our horses are often a reflection of the environment we create for them, the Stall and Stable Show covers ideas that help us create the best home we can. From innovations in barn design to business best practices and lifestyle segments, there's a new episode every 2 weeks at stallandstable.com, Horse Radio Network, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, tonight, back by popular demand, we love having her on. We have FEI rider, trainer, author, and a lady that wears many hats, Lauren Sprieser. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks, guys.
Well, we are thrilled to have you. And I did not get to see you very much at Festival of Champions because when we weren't riding and sweating, we were all trying to be in air conditioning. But I got to see a lot of what you were writing about. So I wanted to kind of bring you on the show as we all prepare for regionals and hopefully nationals and all the other goals that you're getting. And I just thought your perspective was so cool. So I'm going to let you take it away.
Well, thank you very much. I had the great pleasure of showing the Elvis Syndicate's 10-year-old Dutch gelding Guernsey Elvis, who has been my friend for about 3 years now in the developing Grand Prix division. We qualified, I think, in 10th. So I had no illusions of going in and winning a primary colored ribbon. And that was very refreshing because there was really no pressure. There was nothing that I was going to do to eclipse the top group of horses, which were way more experienced than my horse. My horse, with a gun to his head, could not have put together. We did not have an Intermediate 2 in February, which was 6 months before we went to the national championships at the Intermediate 2 level. So that was a pretty steep learning curve. And that was really fun. It was really freeing to be able to have the goals be about learning and not about the color of the ribbon that I came home with. And I actually bettered my incoming placing. We ended up 7th. I learned a tremendous amount and I got to play with my friends and have a ball.
Well, that sounds pretty fun, actually. You know, when you have, very good perspective about it and you have, your own goals. I mean, we always talk about showing how it's a bit of a process, isn't it? So can you tell us a little bit about your season this year and what was the process and how you came, with such a refreshing perspective to the championship competition?
Sure. So the story of this year really goes back the story of several years. So Elvis came into my life at a time where I was really crushed. I had had a terrible loss in my professional life, and he was a blessing at that time. But he also wasn't a horse that I developed from 3 and 4 and 5, which is normally what I do. And the person who developed him did an absolutely exquisite job, but had also done a lot of young horse classes with him in a way that was very successful at the young horse level, but not really sustainable at the Grand Prix level. She rode him wide open with a big front leg. And that's cool when they're kids, but that's very hard to teach to Piaffe. So even at 7, when I met him, I was like, okay, my goal is to make this a Grand Prix horse. I need to hit pause, go back, and reinstall big hind legs and kind of nuke the big front leg. And I succeeded. And it took a couple of years, but I'm there now. And off I go to this championship. And my epiphany of the show was, oh, crap, I need to reinstall big front leg. I have hind leg now. Where did my front leg go? Oh, that's right. I killed it. So I need to bring it back to life. So cool epiphany number 1. But this is also a horse that is not insane, which is unusual for me because I ride pretty much exclusively nutcases. And when you ride nutcases, you can get by on a lot of adrenaline. I've never really had a horse like him where I've had to think about his conditioning. And I did CDI Small Tour last year. I qualified for the national championships, decided not to go for a couple of reasons, COVID being one of them, but I was riding him around at the time of the show last year. And I was going, oh boy, I don't have enough fitness on this horse. I don't have enough adrenaline and energy from this horse. I need to figure out a plan to get him to where I need to be 12 months from now. And I need to figure out how to do it without breaking my horse. I need to figure out how to do it while also letting him have downtime when he's allowed to have downtime. And what a great opportunity it is to have, August 2021 as my target date. When do I need to start doing that fitness program? So I worked with Olympic genius American event rider Jimmy Wofford, who is an acquaintance of mine. And I called and I said, help, make a plan for me. And we did. And so we came up with this walking plan where I think I started in April, and by the time, with power walking up and down my wonderful Virginia hills in the afternoons, we started 3 days a week, then moved up to 4 days a week, then moved up to 5 days a week, and increasing time, the amount of time that he was walking, and peaking for each qualifying show, plus then obviously peaking for the championship show. It worked perfectly. He was so fit. Oh my God. The last 2 weeks we were speaking after, obviously, the festival. And so I've given him 2 weeks of downtime. And those first couple of days, oh boy, I was like, whoa, which is great. That's where I need him to be. And the cool thing about the developing Grand Prix championships is that, like, even if I'd won it, it's not like, well, then I'm done. Like, guess I'm retiring a horse. Like, ta-da. This is a moment in time along the path to bigger things. And so now I know it works. I got to test out a formula that works. And so I can put that in my toolbox and say, okay, when he's ready to do CDI Grand Prix, I know I need to start X months before, and I need to do Y minutes of walking, Z days a week. And that's my plan for this particular animal. And that is the beauty of getting to develop them yourself, is that you get to try some stuff. If this plan hadn't have worked, then I'd have another year next year probably to bang around and try something else. So yay for that.
Yeah. No, I love it. I mean, that makes total sense though. Like I'm like taking notes myself. I'm like, wow, that's how I work on my own fitness, right? Is walking. Yep. There's nothing wrong with walking. I can't run, but I can walk. And
it's very hard to blow a suspensory or blow an Achilles walking. You have to really want it if you're going to do that.
Yeah, no, that's true. And we learned that this winter we walked X amount of time, and the next day, next week we could walk a little further, and it got a little easier, and it really does start to feel good. And so that makes complete sense. And, doing the Grand Prix, the developing Grand Prix is 9 and 10-year-olds. They got a lot of miles still to go. So it makes total sense that you would build them like that. I think that's so cool. And I think a lot of us can think about that, and that you started a year out. I think or you started making the plan, right?
I started making the plan a year out. The execution of the plan began in April. But for all of us developing horses up the levels, whether it's as professionals, as amateurs, whether the goal is third level or the goal is Grand Prix, there is usually a competition goal. The competition is on this date on the calendar. You can circle it in red on the calendar. And whether your horse is hot or not, you still need a plan for how to get them there. Whether the plan is just like, well, I'm just going to blast around, ride after work and do it. And if that works for you, great. Or if you have a horse that's at the upper levels and might need, you need to make sure you leave time to do some veterinary maintenance things. You need to make sure that you let them have some downtime because you can't pound away on an FEI horse, 365 days a year. You can't even really do it 52 weeks a year. How do you balance all of those things? Programs like the Festival of Champions, programs like the 4, 5, 6-year-old test, programs like the USDF finals at second level, at fourth level, at inner one are opportunities for you to have the plan that gets you to the goal without it being the big hairy goal. It lets you work out the kinks in your system before you get to the Grand Prix level, before you get to the international level. And those are very cool opportunities.
What I like, what you're talking about here is that even though, the tests are set up progressively, it doesn't always work out that way. If you were talking about having a really successful young horse that went through the young horse program, and then all of a sudden you hit a bit of a stumbling block. You went all the way to Prix St. George I1, and then you're like, I need to break it all down, put it back together to go to the next level. And we all have experienced this as professionals, and probably the amateurs, if they're working with an accomplished professional, it's usually around the second level, third level thing where like your coach goes, okay, you were successful at second level, but now we got to break it all down and put it back together a little bit better to do third level and to make a successful flying change, or whatever your horse has a little issue with. It's not as progressive as people think.
No, it's certainly not a linear path. I also love watching the Young Horse Championships because, of course, it's fabulous to watch these incredible, especially the 4 and 5-year-olds. My God, the incredible gaits, the incredible balance, the incredible power of the top 12 in the country. I have a fabulous 4-year-old that my hand to God would take an act of Congress to get it to turn right in a 20x60 arena. I could not do it. And I am a good rider and I'm a clever rider. And the horses that were at the 4-year-old championship and my 4-year-old might end up being Grand Prix horses at the same time. My 4-year-old might eclipse some of those horses. It's a very inspiring show. It's an opportunity to see the best of the best. But I think it's also important to remember that it is a moment in time for all of those horses. The 4 and 5 and 6-year-olds, especially, because that is so much dependent on gifts from God. They are there because of smart development for sure, but also because somebody either got very, very lucky buying an extremely affordable young horse, or spent a boatload of money on a 4, 5, and 6-year-old horse to have that quality and that presentability by that birth date. That is not common. So it's inspirational, but it's important to remember that it's not the only path.
No, I completely agree. And I just love your perspective, because I do have an older Grand Prix horse, but this is his first year competing at that level. And so I've had to also kind of step back and like look at the overall picture. I would love to go to regionals and nationals with that horse. What I really want to do is ride at nationals. I don't think it's in his best interest to push him after festival, because that like was a lot for that horse. It was a ton. And you have to look at each of your horses and look at what your goals are. And so I came out of that competition saying, ooh, I don't think I should push another month. I think I need to let him rest and then regroup, because I want to compete internationally in Florida. And so I have to make kind of a similar decision of, maybe it's not in his best interest to keep pushing, and I need to step back and what is the overall plan? And I think that's important to do with all your horses, depending if it's an amazing 4 or 5-year-old, that God gave him all these gifts, but maybe you need to look at what the goal is. Or if you're riding an older horse, if your goal is regionals and nationals, maybe that horse needs a little bit of time off over the holidays. I think you really specifically have to look at your horses and what your goals are for longevity, right? And remembering that all these shows, it's one moment in time. Enjoy it. I loved how your perspective of like, I enjoyed being with my friends. I enjoyed seeing my, other horses go. And I haven't been to festival myself in 11 years and at the Grand Prix level. So for me, it was kind of a similar experience. It was like, wow, I'm bringing a green horse that's going to learn a lot this week. And I'm really honored to be here with all of these people. And I came in with a similar perspective as you did. And it was great. It was fun. Learned a lot, learned some things that I may not do again. Maybe some I will do again. But I think having the perspective is what we want to share with everyone moving forward for regionals, right? Or whatever your goals are.
Yep. And how great is Lamplight? Like, how wonderful is Lamplight?
Oh, and I saw you and you showed me a picture. You kind of where I was, you walked by and you showed me a picture. How old were you in that picture?
I'm guessing I was 12. I'm guessing that is 1996. So I grew up 45 minutes from Lamplight. Lamplight is like my home horse show ground. And listeners, if you've never been, it is an incredible facility with fantastic history. It has been beautifully maintained through multiple owners. It is a privilege to have. But back in 1996, it hosted the USDF Region 2 Youth Championship, which is an unrecognized competition. And little Lauren Sprieser was there riding lesson horse named Corian, who had string halt. And I have a great picture of me at a very young age, still in the arena. Either before that moment or after that moment, Corian would go on to jump out of the chain link fence, and I did not know what to do, so I would smack her on the butt and jump her back into the arena.
Chain link fence. They don't even do that anymore.
Yeah, no, because that's a good way to die.
Yeah.
And had I not been eliminated for that little fiasco, I would have been earning a 39% at Intro A. So, dream big, kids.
That's awesome.
Dream big.
That's
and
awesome.
I
I saw that.
It.
I think you might have posted that on Facebook, and I was very close to digging out an old picture of one of me and one of my horses, and and what we were doing, probably even before that time.
I think we should dig it out, kids. Just to get it up on the show, and just remember, like everybody started somewhere, and I just loved it. And I just enjoyed your perspective through the whole week. At some points, I needed that perspective, and I just thought it was really cool. And now you're a professional rider with wonderful horses, and you've found ways to make it happen. And I just truly inspirational, and it was really cool. So, Lauren, how do people find you online? How do they find you're an amazing writer? How do they find all the things? Give us all the things.
Well, thank you. I am everywhere. I'm Legion. Let's see. I am at Lauren Sprieser on Instagram and Facebook. I also blog for the Chronicle of the Horse. I blog for Noelle Floyd, and I blog for myself at my own website, which is SprieserSporthorse.com.
Fantastic. Well, as always, we love your perspective, and we can't wait to have you back on soon.
You bet. Thanks, guys.
Well, Phil, today I actually was working with a student who is having a little bit of trouble keeping her lower leg quiet in the sitting trot. And the first thing I noticed was how thin her stirrup leathers were. And first thing I said is, you need stability stirrup leathers from Total Saddle Fit, because they're literally 4 times the width of the stirrup leather you have. And she was so cute. She was like, I didn't even know that was the thing. And I couldn't believe it. So I told her about the stability stirrup leathers, and that we truly use them every day on all our saddles. So I know her leg's going to be quieter next week.
Well, we have to thank Justin a lot, because it makes our job of teaching a little bit easier by recommending great products that help riders. That's the stability stirrup leathers, and horses is, and the Stretch Tech shoulder relief girths. We have to work less when these products bring riders and horses better.
Yes, that's so true. And so we hope everybody enjoys their stability stirrup leathers. And we've got a great Total Saddle Fit tip of the week with Lisa Dean today.
This week's dressage training tip is brought to you by Total Saddle Fit, home of the shoulder relief girth at TotalSaddleFit.com.
Well, for this week's Total Saddle Fit Tip of the Week, we have somebody that I have the pleasure of seeing when I'm in the ring. I try to smile every time I see her. We have Lisa Dean of Lisa Dean Photography on the line. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
I do always try to smile when I see you. Just in
You're
general.
always smiling. You're always smiling.
That is a goal, because you are a professional photographer and here in Kentucky. And I saw you at the horse show last weekend, and we were just talking about how to get good shots and what you should do. And I said, Lisa, we need to have you on the radio show. So we're thrilled to have you. So Lisa, I wanted you to just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became a photographer.
Well, let's see. I grew up riding horses, and I got into dressage much later, probably after high school, heading into college. And I show and compete, and I was having these crazy ride times, like 8:30 in the morning and 4:30 in the afternoon. And I used to oil paint, and so I would take that time to try to grab reference photos for painting. And it kind of exploded from there. I mean, once I picked up the camera, I put down the paintbrush, and I just kept going with it.
Tell us a little bit about, what you like about it and why it appealed to you so much.
I think a lot of it is, there's a couple things that really appeal to me, and having had horses and animals my whole life. The cost of loving an animal sometimes is the hard part is letting go. And I've had a couple of experiences where I didn't have any photos. And it broke my heart that I didn't have anything to cherish once my loved one was gone. And so they became very important for me to capture photos of my own animals. And then the second part was just the artistic side of it and being able to do something different. And, a lot of show photographers, we capture your standard trot across the diagonal photos. But when I got into the photography, I was like, man, I'm tired of those shots. So I started playing around with trying to capture different angles and lower angles, and doing close-up headshots while the horses were in the rings, and kind of a little bit more of an artistic feel to the standard show photography. And, I'll still capture the standard shots, but I always try to make them a little extra special and a little more artistic.
Yeah, and you do beautiful shots. I'm lucky that I get to see you and get your photos, and they're really, really cool. So we wanted to give everyone, going kind of into the regional championship time of the year or the national championship type, what are some tips you have for people to get good shots at these big horse shows?
Well, you just went right into my soapbox, Reese. So there's a couple of them. My number one is, you've worked all year and you've prepared all year for this moment. And, first of all, have fun, because your photos are going to come out better if you look like you're having fun riding your horse. And when you're done with your ride, smile and pet your pony. Show them how much you appreciate it, because those are the moments that you're going to cherish the most, and those make the best photos. So that's the biggest one. Probably the second is, if you're going to have a bling bling brow band on your horse's head, make sure it's straight before you go in the arena.
That's a great tip.
True.
Yeah. Make sure all your tack is correct, and double check it, or have someone double check it before you go in the ring.
Yeah, like keepers in. I mean, that's just, it never fails. At least once a horse show, I have keepers out, and those are just very difficult to Photoshop and fix, and it takes a lot of extra time to do that. But the bling bling brow bands are beautiful, but when they're crooked on a horse's head, they make your horse's head look crooked. So I'm sure
it's
that's
true, right?
Right.
What about clean tack? I mean, I would assume that's huge.
There's nothing worse than getting a close-up headshot and there just be dirt and grime all over the bridle. I mean, I know that some slime happens and the horses are mouthing the bits, but that's different than dry dirt. And that goes for the boots and the saddles and saddle pads. I mean, if you're going to show, at some of these bigger shows, especially regionals, wash your saddle pad.
Please do that at every show. I'm just going to say, please do us a favor and you just wash everything. Just come in washed. It doesn't cost anything. That's a big pet peeve of mine. Have somebody wipe your boots. I mean, I think that's another one, even if it's super muddy, that's important, right? You really want to look the part, not only for the judges, but because Lisa is there, our photographer is there. And like you said, at the end of the day, it's kind of like your wedding. You're going to have fun memories, but really you want nice pictures because that's going to be what you remember of that experience, right?
Yeah. And I have one more, and this is just an opinion thing. And it's just, everybody likes those close-up headshots and everybody is each their own. But personally, I prefer if the numbers are on the saddle pad and one on each side. And the reason I like that is those numbers reflect the light. And so a lot of times on these big headshots that people like so much, there'll be a big white circle on the side of their horse's head because it's reflecting the light. And the other reason I like numbers on both sides is it makes you easier to identify when I go to put your pictures in a gallery.
I didn't think about that. Yes, it's a great tip.
Right. But you can't put a number on each side of the bridle. And a lot of horses don't like the numbers up there anyway, So, but a lot of people will pin their numbers to their saddle pads right behind their legs. And you can go a little bit above, like if you are a sponsored rider, go above your sponsor's logo. But it's always easier to identify you just based on the mere fact that I can find your number. A lot of you, I know who you are. You don't even have to put a number on your horse.
I do, or I will get eliminated. But it's a great, I never even thought of it. See, these are why we do these amazing tips, because I typically honestly put them on the bridles. So it's a good reminder to not do that and why. So I love it. Well, Lisa, do you have any other tips for us as for good photos other than smile? That's important. Don't look like you're dying.
Just the big thing is it's just really have fun. I mean, you've worked hard to get there. I mean, there's nothing that you're going to change really training wise once you're in that arena. No. So enjoy what you've got and have a good time.
I love it. Well, Lisa, how can our listeners find you online for more tips? Or if you're coming to the regional champion, region 2, that's our region. How do they find you and sign up?
Okay. Well, I am the official photographer for Region 2. We are bringing in 4 additional photographers to help with coverage because it's a huge show. We've got girls coming from Wisconsin and Georgia who are wonderful dressage shooters. The easiest way to find me is either through my email, which is lmdkidpower@aol.com. or follow and like the Lisa Michelle Dean photography page on Facebook, which would be a good idea anyway, because if you pre-register for photos, like the page, there's going to be lots of contests where you can win prints and things like that during the Region 2 competition.
I love it. Well, thank you so much.
Sorry, I just have a real quick question, kind of a personal interest question. Is what do you shoot with, Lisa? Canon, Nikon?
I am diehard Nikon. I actually shoot with a Nikon 850, and I'll either shoot with a 70-200 lens, or I'll shoot with a 150-600 lens. So a lot of it depends on the available light.
Yeah. So you're full frame, got the big lens if you need it.
Yes, I am definitely full frame. So, and part of that is because I do a lot of portrait work as well.
Right.
And
Excellent.
Just a little tidbit about the 850. A lot of people don't know that, but you can actually turn the 850 into a crop sensor.
Okay, that's versatile then.
Yes.
You guys are speaking not English. So I love it for all our photographers out there. Well, Lisa, thanks so much for coming on, and I will be looking and smiling for you in a few weeks.
That is awesome. I can't wait to see you, and I will see you at the horse park.
Well, as always, we love your email and Facebook shout outs. Keep them coming. We love the questions, and Phil and I will working through them now for the Total Saddle Fit Tip of the Week. As always, you can find our show notes and links to today's guests on our website, dressageradio.com. Like us on Facebook, just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com, and my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com.
I think the best way to find me is probably on Facebook, and my email is philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors for allowing us to put on a good show. That's Kentucky Performance Products and TotalSaddleFit.com. Don't forget to check out all the other shows on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com.
Everybody, keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we will talk to you next week.